wanting to overthrow Saddam Hussein.
You ever notice how every empire starts with a promise, prosperity, strength, and unity? Then one man decides he's the only one who can deliver it. Reminds me of Saddam Hussein. He believed loyalty could be forced until it tore him apart.
We're in Iraq in 1979. The newly appointed president has called his fellow party members to a meeting in a local theatre hall in Baghdad. His name is Saddam Hussein.
Power seized in fear never brings stability. Iraq wasn't gaining a leader. It was inheriting a storm destined to spread. Every move he made after this meeting would shape decades of chaos.
He's only been president for a little under a week, but Iraq is his, and he wants everyone to know. It's July, and the temperature outside is pushing 40 degrees Celsius. The hall is hot, blisteringly hot. As Saddam takes the stage, he takes his time, shuffles a few papers, looks at his notes.
Yo, how does one man reach a point where thousands would rather die than disobey him? Like, what flips in people's heads that makes fear stronger than reason? Because fear rewires the math. 1,000 men don't feel like 1,000 when each one's afraid to be first. And once they see no one else moves, that silence becomes proof it's safer to obey.
Shortly before their newly appointed president arrived, one of his men appeared on stage. A terrible plot against the president and against Iraq has been uncovered, he informed the crowd. A group of high-ranking party members has conspired to remove Saddam Hussein from power. And then he revealed, all the guilty parties are in this room, right now. And now, the crowd sits frozen in silence. The president is in total control.
Imagine sitting there when he says the guilty ones are in this room. The walls, they don't just close in, they start listening. Suddenly, every friend looks like a suspect. Your pulse is screaming, but you can't make a sound. Whoa, that's scary.
Then, Saddam calls a man to the stage, and a tall, slender, middle-aged man starts walking down the aisle. His name is Muhi Adbek Hussein. He's part of the Revolutionary Command Council. He's a powerful man, but just a short while ago, he had opposed Saddam in a meeting. It was a mistake. He walks up onto the stage and stands behind a microphone, and then, slowly, he begins confessing. Confessing to crimes of wanting to overthrow Saddam Hussein.
Yo, that man walking up there looking like he already know it's over. You can see it in his stride, slow and heavy. Like every step closer to that mic is another nail in his coffin. I once read Muhi al-Husseini looked Saddam in the eye and said, "You don't know how to rule Iraq." In front of the whole council, the city froze. That's a death sentence waiting to be carried out.
In the meantime, Saddam takes a seat by a long table full of microphones and lights a thick Cuban cigar. "I was the one behind the plot against the new president," the man says. "It was me who tried getting others to join in." But it's a lie. Nothing of what he admits on stage is true. What's really happened is that he's been thoroughly tortured and told that if he doesn't go up on that stage and say that he planned the plot against Saddam, the torturers will rape his wife and daughter right in front of him. He has no choice but to obey.
You can feel the air shift, man. The crowd's not even looking at him. They're looking at Saddam, waiting to see if clapping or breathing gets them killed next. The whole room's a test. And that man on stage, he's just proof that mercy doesn't live there.
And so he does. To save his family, Muhi lies about his own and his fellow party members' involvement in the plot to overthrow Saddam's new regime. Once he's finished, Saddam takes the floor. Again, Saddam is in no rush. He lights his cigar and then he asks out into the room. "What means should be used against these traitors?" "You know the answer," he says after a pause.
What's the right way to answer that? You say mercy? You're next. You say death and you help end lives that still believe in tomorrow. Either way, somebody's son doesn't make it home tonight. That's the sick part, bro. He makes you choose between saving yourself and saving somebody else. And even if you make it out, your body leaves, but your mind stays stuck in that silence, replaying the fear they couldn't show.
There is no other way than the sword. The terrified party members in the theatre hall begin to clap desperately. What else could they do? Saddam then gives an instruction to those assembled in the hall. "When I have read out your name, you shall stand up, recite the party's slogan, and leave the room." And so he begins reading out names. One by one, they must rise from their seats, say the slogan, and then they are led out of the room.
The wild part is, there's no order to it. He just called names like he's pulling souls out of a hat. You frozen in your seat, your heart thumping so loud, You swear he could hear it. Every pause between names got you wishing you was somewhere else. Or maybe not even born at all.
They haven't been told where they're going or what's waiting for them on the other side of the door, but they probably have an idea. Most of the people, though reluctantly, do as they're told. One man, however, is clearly confused at his name being called. Me? I haven't done anything, he shouts as he stands up. Saddam doesn't even bother to look at him. He just coolly repeats, "When I have read out your name, you shall stand up, recite the party's slogan, and leave the room."
Bro, that man still tried to defend himself. You can hear it. It's pure confusion, not defiance. He really thought reason could save him in a place where truth already died. Yeah, that's the worst kind of hope. When you still believe someone's listening, but the verdict was written before you even opened your mouth.
And then, nothing. The man just lowers his head and shuffles out of the room. Saddam continues until he has called out 68 names. He smiles and thanks those remaining in the hall for their loyalty, and then everyone stands up and once again begins a desperate standing ovation. Relief. Some even begin to cry. Up on the stage, even Saddam himself sheds a tear.
One thing about Saddam, he understood theater better than politics. When it was over, he let his tears fall, not for the dead, but to remind the living he could fake compassion as easily as he dealt with cruelty.
Outside the hall, all the people whose names Saddam has called out are gathered in trucks and driven to prison. In the following days, 68 trials are held. 22 men, including 5 members of the Revolutionary Command Council, are sentenced to death.
None of those men even plotted against him. Every single one of them was innocent. Saddam used them as examples, so everyone else would know exactly what happens the moment you fall out of line. They ain't just killing man, bro. They erasing everything they stood for. You look at their faces, and it hits you. These were fathers, brothers, friends, and now they just warnings. That's not justice. That's the sound of hope being buried alive.
Saddam has appointed a number of executioners to complete the task of carrying out the executions. They're all members of the Ba'ath Party, his party, and none of them are executioners. They are then gathered in the building where the plotters allegedly should have laid their plans to overthrow Saddam's new regime. And then the condemned are dragged out into the adjoining yard where they are forced to their knees and blindfolded. Each of the executioners is then handed a weapon and assigned a victim.
I wonder what the Ba'ath Party even was. Probably Saddam's own people. Officials are men who spent their lives preaching unity. Now they're handed guns and told to prove loyalty with blood.
And while they prepare to murder their former party comrades, they can hear the sound of a large crowd gathering outside the building. Saddam wants to make sure that everyone knows what will happen to people who disobey. But most importantly, he wants to show his accomplices, willing or not. So Saddam has made sure that there's a demonstration at the same time as the executions.
That's crazy, bro. People are out here cheering while their own countrymen getting lined up to die. They out here really celebrating this man. They weren't cheering for him. They were cheering to stay alive. Under Saddam's rule, staying quiet looked like betrayal. So you either shouted his name or risked being the next one dragged out.
And it's a big one. Thousands of Iraqis gather with signs and flags, shouting praises to their new president and condemning the prisoners. And then, one by one, Saddam's former friends and fellow party members are shot. Some executioners are so nervous and scared that they miss and need to shoot their victims several times. It's gruesome.
It's crazy to think men who once toasted together are now pointing guns at each other, hands shaking. That's not justice. That's the nation eating itself.
But Saddam is very satisfied. An excellent start to his presidential career, he thinks to himself. And so the first official order of the newly appointed president of Iraq has been carried out. What could be the next?
5 months ago, Saddam Hussein started this cruel war against Kuwait. Tonight, the battle has been joined.
It was wild, man. It don't just change people, it consumes them. Give someone enough control, and soon they forget they ever needed permission to use it. Every addiction has withdrawal, except power. Once you taste it, you don't want relief. You want a bigger dose.